Thank you, Count Cordia. I want to commend Deputy O'Reilly and her colleagues for bringing forward this timely motion, and there is no doubt that there are many shortcomings within our maternity services. And while the maternity strategy is to be welcomed, it is fairly meaningless unless it is adequately funded and implemented. And certainly that process needs to be accelerated in order to bring our services up to modern-day standards and fit for purpose. In my few minutes, I want to concentrate on the issues surrounding the move or the proposed move of the National Maternity Hospital. And while I have some sympathy with the Minister because he inherited this situation, I would have to say to you, Minister, that it is not on, under any circumstances, to proceed with the transfer of ownership of the proposed new hospital. And I just want to say, in relation to what we know of the agreement that was brokered last November, question of ownership, transferring ownership of a €300 million state asset to private interests is utterly unacceptable to the public. And people are outraged by the idea of doing that. Secondly, the composition of the board is not acceptable under any circumstances. We're talking about 4, and 1, with the one expert person being appointed effectively by St Vincent's. So, by any standard, the proposed board structure gives St Vincent's a 5-4 majority on the board, and that's quite clear from the details of the agreement. The other thing I think that is incomprehensible for people is the fact that you're proposing to set up a new company that is wholly owned, 100% owned by St Vincent's Healthcare Group. Again, no justification for that whatsoever, and people are horrified at the idea of that and just cannot understand how that could possibly be agreed to. On the question of clinical governance then, if you look at the diagram that's actually in the Mulvey report, you will see that the Master of Holles Street, along with a number of other clinical directors, are answerable to the overall clinical director of St Vincent's Healthcare Group, who in turn is answerable to the CEO of St Vincent's Healthcare Group, who in turn is answerable to the board of the St Vincent's Healthcare Group. Under no circumstances can that be considered clinical independence. It simply is not the case. The other point I would make is that, Minister, you've been landed in this, and you did sign up to this agreement last November. I think that was a mistake. I think it was a mistake to welcome that agreement, as the Taoiseach did as well, because clearly when the detail of that agreement has come out, it is utterly unacceptable to the Irish public. Now, you have been at pains to talk about various safeguards. You've talked about reserved powers and you've talked about a golden share, neither of which will have any will carry any weight in law under the terms that are proposed at the moment. A golden share, and there are big legal questions about whether there is such a thing as a golden share or not, but that can only come into play within the boardroom. The Minister is not going to be in the boardroom. So the idea of a golden share is really deceiving people. Maybe you've been deceived on that, Minister, yourself, but it actually doesn't carry any weight, nor do reserved powers. They have no meaning in a company, a subsidiary that is 100% owned. Minister, I would also put it to you today, I have pointed out in a letter in the Irish Times, where there is a severe constitutional impediment to having any kind of independence where ownership transfers to a religious organisation. I've set out the very clear grounds and the case law that exists in relation to this. So you talk about being solution-focused. I hope you will bring forward solutions within the next month, but those solutions cannot entail the transfer of ownership of the new National Maternity Hospital to any outside agency. This is a public hospital, it's publicly funded and should be publicly owned in its entirety. Thank you.